it's a great tragedy what has been inflicted on our city by successive Conservative and Labour governments and demented mayor, now Sir Sadiq Khan.
Breaking right now, the let's be honest about it, the despicable invasion of our country, the destruction of our capital city gets worse by the day, but it's so difficult for us to find out much about it. However, the Daily Telegraph has worked out that 1 in 12 folk in London, at least, is now an illegal immigrant. Nigel Farage posted on this, Sir Keir Starmer and Sir Sadiq Khan will continue to change our capital city forever. I would argue that is the understatement of the year. Let me take you through some of this Daily Telegraph article because it's fascinating how they have actually been able to discover this information. So they say London is home to as many as 585,000 illegal migrants, equivalent to 1 in 12 of the city's population. That is according to a previously confidential report. So they say there is no official figures on the scale of the problem provided by the Home Office, but the new estimate has actually emerged. This is fascinating. In a study commissioned by Thames Water and obtained by the Telegraph under Freedom of Information style laws for the environment. In total, there are estimated to be more than 1 million illegal migrants in the UK, with 60% of those in the capital. The report suggests most illegal migrants arrived in the UK on work, study, or visitor visas and then overstayed. Migration experts suggested that the figures could be an underestimate, as some of the underlying data dates from 2017, before the surge in migrants crossing the Channel. And that continues, by the way, with the Home Office confirming that 1,000 migrants had crossed so far this year, following the 38,816 in 2024. Of course, that's what we know about it. But let's just lay out the figures. They are astonishing. For the whole of London, there is a range in terms of illegal migrants of up to 585,533. But when other areas outside of London, such as Henley, Guildford, Reading, Swindon, and Newbury, are included, those numbers rise to 623,000. Connor Tomlinson, I mean, look, I know we're not shocked. In fact, I think the numbers, and I'll be honest about this, I think they are a gross underestimation. However, it's stark, isn't it? It's absolutely stark to think 1 in 12 in London are here illegally. That means if you're on a tube carriage and you look around, probably 10 to 15 of the people should not be there, should not be receiving free healthcare, should not be taking your houses. It is astonishing.
Yes, I think we can make an educated guess and say this is a woeful underestimation. And I
Yeah.
must say, Sam Ashworth-Hames and Charles Hymas did a great job getting this data.
Yes,
But reminder,
indeed.
Pew Research in 2017 found that there were 1.2 million illegal visa overstays currently residing in Britain. That was before the small boat channel crossings. I think there's about 150,000 of those recorded now, so more slipped through the net. And that was before the Boris wave of 2021 to 2024. Record net migration, about 86% of which was from the third world. Only 5% every year is a net taxpayer contributor. We know lots of them come over on student visas as Deliveroo visas and don't finish their useless degrees and disappear into the low-paid gig economy. We know, for example, from a study that Miriam Cates did in Parliament of health and social care visas, that of 70,000 issued in a period in 2022 to 2023, only 11,000 vacancies were filled. So people come over on false pretenses, disappear into the system, and there's no follow-up. And we know that these cultures are highly ethnically nepotistic, don't value honesty the same way that Christian and Jewish cultures do. And so this means they are more likely to cheat the system if they can get away with it. So I think that this is at least double. I'm going to wager that it is going to be at least double. And you can tell by just walking around London and seeing how stiflingly unpleasant and full it is, filthy and unrecognizable. And it is very depressing to have lived here all my life. I replied to Farage on Twitter when he put this. I've Born in London, raised here. This is the worst it's been since the 2011 riots, and that was a proper flashpoint, salient moment for me for being interested in politics because they came right up near my road. And now areas of London, because of just the way the inhabitants treat it, look like they've never recovered from those riots and were never cleaned and rebuilt in the first place. And it's a great tragedy what has been inflicted on our city by successive Conservative and Labour governments and demented mayor, now Sir Sadiq Khan.
But first, the reason you're watching this show is because you know that these days it's almost impossible to trust the mainstream media or the so called fact checkers who claim to patrol social media. And I mean, that's for a very good reason, given what we've seen today with the Southport massacre, or Brexit, or COVID, or the demonization of Donald Trump. So I have the solution. Today's sponsor, Ground News, created by a former NASA engineer to provide you with the only safe way to consume the headlines. Go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out for yourself. But I want to actually show you, the best thing to do here is show you this incredible website and app in action. So what we're going to do is take the recent story of Elon Musk's fallout with Nigel Farage over Tommy Robinson, which the left-wing legacy media tried to whip up to destroy all three men. And you can see very clearly on Ground News, which collates the 230 sources all in one place. And it instantly shows how the story is being covered by the media, broken down whether those media organizations lean left or right, illustrated by this bias distribution service. And then if you scroll down, you can see every article about the topic broken down by the political position and ownership of the publication. So in this case, you can see quite clearly that Fox News gave a fair analysis compared to Mediarite and The Independent, which most certainly did not, lambasting the men as morons with big egos, actually looking into why, without actually looking into why, why the split happened, how it could be resolved. But what's more is Ground News actually gets to know you personally, providing you with the news stories you're interested in while also analysing your own biases and coming up with potential blind spots you may not have heard about. And I know if you're like me, you love the news, but you don't trust the legacy media. So Ground News gives you the tools to understand the truth about what is going on in the world. I can tell you it is the only way. I read the news now. I have the app on my phone and it allows me to see through media bias and manipulative narratives. No more relying on MSM bias to define the truth for you. So go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. You can subscribe through my link for 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use for unlimited access. Thank you, Ground News. And remember, Ground News is subscriber funded and supporting it also supports my work too. So for less than a Netflix subscription, you can get all the world's news in one place and think for yourself. It's been a game changer for a news junkie like me. So that is ground.news/outspoken. But now back to the show. Do you think it's going to be too late? And I note that in your reply to Nigel Farage, which I think we can have a look at here, this is why you are advocating and trying to push him, and I think you're completely right to do this, back towards the concept of mass deportations. And you say here, only the mass deportation of these foreign criminals will fix this situation. It's a sensible, necessary solution.
Well, it's just a basic upholding of the rule of law because you cannot have a criminal underclass existing as vagrants without citizenship in your country, but to be net taxpayer recipients and um, disparage the culture of the place. You can't have a home if a number of strangers outnumber the homeowners, and that we're getting dangerously close to that ratio. It's already unpleasant as it is. And so the clip I included there was Rupert Lowe on Peter Whittle's show on the New Culture Forum supporting exactly that. I spoke about the necessity to mass deport the minimum 1.2 million foreign criminals in Britain to uphold the rule of law. Nigel himself on election day on July the 4th, 2024, tweeted that we will deport all illegal immigrants in Britain. He's since slightly retreated from that position in interviews with Winston Marshall and Stephen Edgington, so we're a bit unclear on that. But Rupert Lowe makes his position very clear. He said he fully expects there's more than 1.2 million and that they all have to be sent home anyway. Rupert has repeatedly tweeted out for the need for mass deportations, and I will always echo and praise his calls. And so I think that reform have the world to gain, as proven by Donald Trump's successful win of the popular vote over in America, by promising to uphold the rule of law, by promising to deport all foreign criminals currently residing in Britain. And I think Rupert Lowe's rising popularity proves that it's not just popular among their base, but it's also going to win over a lot of voters as this problem gets continually worse under a Labour government.
And Connor, I was very jealous because you were over in DC for the inauguration. I'm fascinated to know what the view on the ground there was about the UK, about the political situation.
Every American politico I spoke to regarded the UK as if the motherland has been lost. They look towards us with great affinity. Of course, they joke about us being redcoats and chucking tea in the harbour. But America was founded by Englishmen on the ideals of Englishmen. It's why they thought they were so self-evident. Their First Amendment existed to stop the denominational Christian wars from the homeland that the Puritan settlers fled on the Mayflower. So it's bound up with Englishness, Britishness more broadly, of course. And so they see what's happening to us as the Iron Curtain descends around us, as we are the only despotically left-wing government in a Europe that is abandoning those suicidal policies, and an America where Trumpism is in the ascendant. I mean, in all of my visits there in the last few years, I didn't see one MAGA hat during Washington, walking around Washington, D.C. People are now wearing them in airports. They're walking down the street in them. They're smiling at one another in them. It's like a new and renewed confidence to step out of the political closet has happened. Like many political people, I sort of poll my taxi drivers. And when I spoke to all the Uber drivers that I used during my time there, they were all immigrants. They were all Trump voters. I eventually coaxed it out of them with a preface of, well, I might offend you by saying this, but, and the reasons they cited were Biden crashed the economy, Biden got us into more foreign wars, and Trump started none. And I came over legally, all these illegals are jumping the queue, and so like it or lump it, they've got to go back. And so Trumpism is very popular, it's sensible, and it has been made necessary because of the dire conditions that Biden put America in. And I think, much like when America sneezes, Europe catches a cold, I think some of those policies will cross-pollinate over the pond to us, and eventually, I think reform will feel emboldened enough to adopt them, and I look forward to the day that they do.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.